This is the future.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Warframe video. I am very excited tomorrow as we will finally get Gauss Prime in Warframe. This is really great for those players who don't own Gauss Prime yet, as instead of farming the components of the normal variant from Disruption Mission in Sedna, they can just get the relics from relic packs and farm the Prime variant in day one of the Prime access. There's really no big difference between Gauss Prime and the vanilla variant, as the increase on its energy, shield, or health will not change the way that players build Gauss Prime. So just a preparation on how you can have some great fun with the new Prime Warframe. I decided to make this video and do take note that this may not be the best endgame, overpowered, broken Gauss Prime build you will see, but I will give you all the details on how to enjoy this Warframe. You may think that the Warframe is only about speed and a Warframe that can literally run in water, but the fact is Gauss Prime is one of the best Warframes in the game because 1, it doesn't need any Helminth builds to be great. 2, the Warframe is insane when it comes to survivability. 3, Gauss Prime can also nuke if needed or you want to do such build. 3, the Warframe also provides buffs such as attack speed and fire rate, which makes your weapon perform better. And finally, Gauss Prime has insane Godspeed, which most of the time the reason why players are getting lured in playing Warframe. But like I have said, Gauss Prime is more than speed, and let me show you why by discussing each of his abilities. First of all, let's discuss about his passive ability. To achieve supersonic speed, Gauss draws upon both his energy reserves and his state-of-the-art electrokinetic battery to fuel his abilities. Gauss has access to 80% of the battery in his default state. Activating red line grants access to 100% of the battery. The battery, displayed as a gauge meter above his ability icons, and certain actions will either deplete or increase his battery levels. These are the actions you can perform to either deplete or increase his battery levels, and you need to be conscious about this since a 100% battery level is our main goal here to unlock the full potential of the Warframe. Basically, while moving, you can increase your battery levels, and you can maintain it to 100% if you're constantly using Mac Rush. Hitting enemies with Mac Rush will also increase your battery level, and then casting Cold Thermal Sunder will also increase your battery level. Meanwhile, your battery level will deplete when you have kinetic plating active and you get hit by enemies while the ability is on. While it's tempting to disable kinetic plating while charging the battery level of Gauss Prime, I highly advise you not to do it since your second ability is your ultimate source of survivability. While kinetic plating is active, you can still increase your battery levels by moving around while casting Mac Rush and Cold Thermal Sunder until you hit that 100% mark in your battery charge. Before we proceed discussing kinetic plating more, I would like to give you another tip on the proper usage of Mac Rush. It's not just an ability that grants Gauss super speed and walk in water, but it's also a great ability to get out in sticky situations. Kinetic plating can resist knockdown while it's active, and there's a specific mod setup wherein you can get out of situations wherein death is imminent and your only option is to run and keep distance with the help of Mac Rush. Now, aside from kinetic plating giving your immunity to knockdown, it has this effect wherein it reduces the damage and the status procs of damage types including slash, impact, puncture, heat, cold, and blast damage. The damage reduction is dependent on your battery levels, and when you hit 100%, you will get immune to all of these damage types. This is really a massive boost to Gauss Prime's survivability, especially that you are immune to blast, which is one of the most fuck-up damage type in beyond steel path levels. This means that one Blitz Xmas shot won't one-shot you as you are immune to blast damage, and heat won't affect or damage you, then you won't get knocked down by enemies, which is a hell of a combination for ultimate survivability. The only problem though is that corrosive gas, magnetic, radiation, toxin, and electricity are still a threat for Gauss Prime, but most of these damage types are rare and they can be avoided, such as the radiation procs from lasers. The nastiest damage types here are magnetic and toxin. Magnetic will fuck up your skills, and best way to avoid them is to kill the source as fast as possible. This damage type is present with Ancient Disruptors and those Thrax units in Zarman and Conjunction Survival, so be wary of these enemies while playing Gauss Prime. Also, Eidolons in the plains and other New Murmur enemies, such as the Fragmented One, can deactivate your ability with their magnetic procs. Toxin is also dangerous since it will directly attack your health values and they are present on Xmas units. It's best that you be conscious with enemies that have Toxin, as it will definitely lead to death while playing Gauss Prime. Well, these elements are actually a problem for all Warframes in the game, but this doesn't mean that Gauss Prime can't survive while facing these threats, as there is a mod that will grant more survivability to Warframe, giving you that that couple of seconds needed to cast Mac Rush and escape. I am talking about quick thinking that drains your energy when receiving lethal damage. This provides an extra layer of survivability aside from speed, shield gating, damage immunity on certain damage types, crowd control with cold thermal sunder, and also shield and health regeneration with this mod setup. So before we proceed to the next ability, let me share to you this all-rounder build for Gauss Prime that I highly recommend. First of all, I highly suggest that you go with tons of duration, as this is needed for the redline ability to be active for longer periods of time. Do take note that redline doesn't just provide weapon buffs, but it unlocks the full potential of each of Gauss Prime's abilities. Activating redline will allow you to charge your battery level to 100%, and Mac Rush energy cost is halved when cast during redline. In addition, while the battery level is boosted during redline, kinetic plating also grants Gauss a 100% base melee damage bonus and 100% chance to stagger enemies on hit. Not to mention that it gives you full immunity to physical damage, heat, cold, and blast. And lastly, Thermal Sunder gains bonuses to its status effects when redline is active and above the redline battery charge. The cold proc freezes enemies solid instantly, the heat proc deals full damage over time against enemies, and the blast proc permanently strips away the current amount of armor based off of battery power level up to a maximum of 100% with a full battery charge before inflicting its damage. While the other power increase are good, the most important part here is that having longer duration in your build means you will have longer immunity from the kinetic plating ability. Getting back to quick thinking, you can actually abuse this mod with Gauss Prime, since while his second ability is active, you will regenerate energy when you get hit by physical damage, heat, cold, or blast. In most cases, enemies in Warframe are doing physical damage types, which means you will constantly be regenerating energy while kinetic plating is active. This allows you to cast your abilities and as well as abuse quick thinking. Against Toxin Eximus, you can literally be unkillable while kinetic plating is active, as it gives your knockdown immunity. Then quick thinking will provide you with energy regeneration also, and casting abilities such as Thermal Sunder will restore your health with the help of the Molt Reconstruct Arcane in this build. It's just an endless loop of restoring energy and health regeneration to survive enemies with toxin damage. If there's one thing I can add on this build, then that is the adaptation mode, which grants 90% damage reduction to other damage types. Right now I can't do that since energy is a must-have for me to make quick thinking work. If you are not using any Thermal Sunder nuker setup, then it would be good to remove Augur Reach and replace it with adaptation, or you can replace Prime Flow in your build with the adaptation mod and then provide 5 blue Taw Forged Archon Shard in your Gauss Prime to increase your energy. Another thing that you may not like about the build is it has little increase in range for Thermal Sunder. The radius of Thermal Sunder here is only 13 meters, but you can make a nuker build for Gauss Prime by using this build. This sacrifices a lot of survivability just to get 23 meters radius for Thermal Sunder, and in my opinion, I would rather go with something that creates 13 meters zone of Thermal Sunder, or even use my Nautilus to group enemies and nuke them with Thermal Sunder, than to sacrifice my ultimate survivability setup for Gauss Prime. Many like Gauss Prime and Steel Path Duviri Circuit, as with the Decree system, pair with a long-range Thermal Sunder allows them to melt enemies in seconds when they strip and damage them with heat. But then again, there's no guarantee that you can use Gauss Prime in the Duviri Circuit. Might as well try it if it's available, but for a versatile build, I highly advise you to use the first one that I have showed in this video. The build I have shown you, by the way, will not cost 10 Forma, and with Gauss Prime, it would be just around 3 to 4 Forma, depending on the available polarity of the Prime Warframe. Now, there are other style of gameplay for Gauss Prime, such as equipping as Mac Crash Augment that group enemies into one place. However, I don't usually run this type of setup right now, since if I really want to use some grouping mechanic in Steel Endurance runs, then I would just use my trusty Nautilus Sentinel with its Cordon Precept to group enemies in one place. Also, there's the Thermal Transfer Augment that gives you and your allies either cold or heat imbued in your weapon. I don't also use this kind of setup because of personal preference. It's great to have heat and cold that combines together to form blast and imbues to your weapon, or even cold or just heat when you want it to, but I just don't have any use for such setup. My main playstyle with Gauss Prime is to just run and gun, destroy everything, and Thermal Sunder's purpose is to either build up the battery levels or strip armor of enemies. I don't usually use it for nuking outside Duviri Circuit, and the build I have shown you earlier is giving me lots of fun while playing the vanilla version of the Warframe. I will definitely use the build for my Gauss Prime, and I hope that you try it too. So that's all about it. I hope that you have learned something from this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again in my next video. Squad Leader signing off.
This is the future. Evolution. This is the future.